tapping. Tap into your purpose. Tapping.
Okay.
Check it. They act as if we see, no hear, no speak, no evil. They act as if we see, no hear, no speak, no evil. We tapping into purpose. Raw purpose. Raw purpose. We tapping into purpose. Raw purpose. Raw purpose.
Yo, what's good? It's your boy Zay.
And it's your boy Rashad.
And this is the Raw on Purpose Podcast.
Yes, we're back with the Raw on Purpose Podcast, the Raw on Purpose Podcast where it's about being you and tapping into your divine purpose. And we got the great discussions just like we got coming up today, where we break it down and help you to tap into your divine purpose while you're being your real and authentic self. So,
that's right.
Let us.
That's right. So we got a surprise bonus episode for you. The conversation was just so good. Part 1, Part 2, and I'm not even going to get into, y'all know what to do. Links in the bio, in the description. You know, it's right there. Y'all go ahead and do what you got to do. We want to dive into this conversation. We've been talking with Imani and Miss Rhonda about motherhood and wifehood. And we kind of want to bring it in together and, tie it in and just have further conversation. Again, we've been in this whole marriage and family conversation for the past few weeks. And I think the conversations before have been so fruitful. I believe there's a lot of stuff that, people can get from this. And there's just a few things that I was like, we got to get to it. And they were so gracious enough to stay with us to get this last part. So, and also because I do my best to keep my word and be a man of integrity. When we left off on Part 1, we were going to talk about the difference between being a wife and a mother. So we're going to dive into that a little bit and, see where it goes. So again, Imani, Ms. Rhonda, thank you so much for staying with us and, really giving us some great conversation and great nuggets. So that's the question I'm going to pose. What is the difference between being a wife and a mother?
Well, definitely where your emotions, where your intentions, and what it is that you're working through with either your children or your husband, where that lies. So often, I think people forget about one or the other.
Yeah.
When there's so much going on in your life, and in the lives of your children, and there are times when you just won't have balance, and with the wife versus the mothering roles. I think that it's important to really talk through with your spouse, with your husband, what is needed in the process, and to work through that as you go through it. I mean, we had so much going on with our children as they grew that we times we were just like, we felt like we were just roommates, and so the mothering role, I believe, you pour so much into both, the mother role and the wife role, that I think that you also have to understand who you are. Because if you don't, you begin to lose yourself in both. And it's hard to be one or the other when you're losing yourself.
Good.
So I truly believe, like we talked about earlier, being able to pull back enough to spend time with God to show what's needed in both roles.
Yeah.
And to be able to bless, serve, and receive what it is that you need to receive from your husband, from learning from your children. because you do. They will teach you a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Some stuff you're not ready to receive, but they're going to teach it anyway.
Yeah.
I think that, you know, I guess hopefully that answered your question, because you know, we know a wife's role, you know, and a mother's role. We know you know, those basic roles, but I believe that in really truly understanding, you're in it.
Yeah.
And you just gotta work through it.
Yeah.
And what is needed in the moment. Sometimes you just work through it, and then you pull back when needed.
It's good.
To understand yourself.
It's good. It's so good.
Yeah. I think for me, I really give a lot of credit to my pastor for helping me develop in both areas. And I remember, like, earlier in our marriage, he taught us how to do a check-in with each other. And part of that is asking your spouse, you know, how am I doing as a woman, your woman? How am I doing as a wife? And how am I doing as a mother? And realizing that those are different hats that you wear, right? So when my husband needs the woman, being sure that I give him the woman version of me. And when he needs that wife, his support, making sure that I give that to him. And making sure that that mother part is really reserved for my son. Because I think a lot of times we get the hats mixed up. And it's really easy to talk to your husband as if they are your child. And I try a lot of times to be conscious of that, because I think it goes back to that respect piece that we talked about, making sure that he feels heard, he feels understood, that I'm not talking over his head, and making sure that I'm not being disrespectful, you know, in my tone as if I am speaking to a child.
Yeah.
So for me, it's making sure that I'm conscious of those different hats and knowing where to put them on and take them off. And sometimes it can be a bit difficult, but I think it's about being in tune, listening, observing for sure, and seeing, you know, what my spouse needs. And then, like I said, realizing that that mother part is reserved for my son.
Yeah.
And you know, you said something, you were talking about making sure, you separate the two. And I have seen where, especially mothers who've gone through certain traumas, or just, you know, they got baggage, we have baggage, that some of the things that you'll hear them say sound like they're talking to the baby daddy or the husband. You know, some of the things that they say to their children, the male child.
Right.
You know, they'll and you're listening, you're saying, what?
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
And it's not even realized. You know, and so when that child grows up, you know, they're taking on this role, and they know they have to take care of their mom as well as, you know, whoever they're dating or they marry or whatever at the time.
Yeah.
And it's so unfair.
Yeah.
It's so unfair, and sometimes they don't even know it. It's just, you know, yeah.
And it's crazy.
Yeah.
So if you guys don't know, from this segment that me and Imani have the same pastor. So when you hear me, you know, when y'all hear me shouting out my pastor, and so I was like, I know she's gonna go here. And it's a book that, you know, and this is me kind of putting it out there for him to, you know, get the book done, sir. But he talks about that whole man, woman, father, or husband, wife, father, mother. And he talks about the conversations that they have. And when you're not having the proper conversations, because it goes back to even what you're saying, you know, you lose yourself. And yourself is the woman part of you, right? And he always says, you know, when talking about those different levels, in most cases, a woman will give up her woman will give up her wife, but she will never give up being a mother.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And for the man, he will give up his husband and he will give up his father, but he will never give up the man. Right? That's why, the false narrative out there that black men are not present in their children's lives and that we don't want to get married, which has been proven to be a lie. That actually, out of any demographic in this country, black men are more present in their children's lives, but it's the man's not giving up his manhood, and women are not giving up their motherhood, and it's because we don't know, as my pastor would say, who's talking, right? And having to, as the man, get your man right, and the woman get her woman right, so they can meet where they're supposed to meet, and then in the husband, right? Because like you said, there's different hats, right? There's as a husband, it's a provider. There's a protector, but as a man, there is a healthy ego. There is a being mindful of how you take care of your body on both sides. And as a father, it's the same protection, it's the same provision, but it's different because you have to be mindful of who you talking to, right? Like, because if the wife, because honestly, we need, like, husbands need the mothering from our wives at times. You need that gentleness. You need that, that's the nurturing side of a woman for their husband, is the mother coming out of them. And, and then for men, or for women, you think about it, when God said, he says husbands leave their mother and father and they cleave to their wife. But if you notice, he doesn't say that the woman leaves her family. So that lets me understand that she transitions from one father to another, which is her husband, which father is just another term for source. So there's just an even transition. She leaves one father and goes to another. And you have to understand how to balance and make sure who's talking. So y'all's breakdown of what's the difference between a mother and a wife, and then making sure that your woman is intact, because that has a voice as well, just like being a wife and a mother.
I listened to you talk about, that's excellent.
Shout out to Pastor Matthew Brown.
Yes.
When I hear you talk about a mother will never leave the mothering, and the man, the father, will never leave the man-ing. It made me think back, even into slavery, where mothers' children were taken away from them, and that's what they had. It came from them, and then it was taken away. And those, I don't think we realize how much trauma still exists with those types of things that happen. And how with men, we have, men, they tried everything to take their manhood away. Still trying, and that's what they're clinging to.
Absolutely.
And so I truly believe that me as being my husband's partner, my husband's wife is important, not just in physical ways, but especially in spiritual ways. So that and him for me as well, because of the things that we don't know about, that God is working through, that have existed for so many years, that we're trying to pull out of one another, so that health and wholeness can exist in every way, wholeness in every way, and that it won't go to our next generation. They won't even understand it.
Right.
A lot of stuff they don't understand, but it's still, and we just trying to, pull it out.
Absolutely.
And be
Absolutely.
whole.
Yes.
Which brings to mind, I like to ask moms that have grown children on that, and to even give, like for Imani, this will maybe help her as well. How do you make the transition from being a mother to mentor, right? So, one of the experiences I had when I got married, one, it's tough, like even in your single, in your adult, trying to help your mom understand, like, I'm not a baby, I'm an adult now. I can make decisions, and them, that butting of heads. But, I had to help my mom understand when I got married, like the week after we got married and came back from the honeymoon, she was in the hospital. And she was like, when you gonna come see me? When you gonna come see me? And I'm like, well, first I have to take care of my wife. I have to make sure that she is good because she is my priority now, right? So, through that, it helped her understand what my priorities were to where now we talked about this in part one of having the boundaries. So she understood her boundaries as a mom in my life, and I've been really trying to coach her into understanding, like, you're no longer that mom, that disciplinarian that I was, you were when I was a child, but now you're more of a mentor, that kind of, or a coach for, which is better because, you still, with a coach, you have intimate understanding and, there's certain visions that a coach see. So can you speak on that transition? Because, and maybe you're transitioning through it because your children are still kind of young adults, but, you're moving into that space.
Um, it hasn't been easy. it hasn't, just because you've done so much, you've poured so much into them, and then all of a sudden it's like they just to go free. I think that we knew for my daughter especially that she needed to kind of be away from us. So, to go to college in North Carolina. And that kind of helped with the process because I'm going to tell you, we close to my kids. I held them close, and I still do. And so, with much prayer and calling and saying, wait a minute, why you're supposed to call me, those types of things. And having to back away, to understand that they are going to have excursions with she has a boyfriend that she's had for a long time, and having to pull back and understand what she needs in moments. I know that, one of the hardest things that I've had to go through with my daughter was a breakup from someone that she loved, and to not say too much, and to sit and listen. Excuse me, to listen and to say, okay, what do I need? How can I comfort her in this moment? And that was difficult for me because then I went to my husband and I said, oh, you don't know what kind of that conversation I had with your daughter. Oh my goodness, and sometimes you're like, I'm so glad you had that conversation. But really, understanding what you've poured into them, you've already poured it into them, and to know that God has them like God had you when you were going through this stuff. And God will bring that back to you too. You don't it doesn't just stop there. It doesn't just stop and you're just left. You understand. I know I did because I've been through those relationships. And I've had to go through those types of things, and so because of that, I have, I have that perception, that example, but to get to where you say, okay, how do I provide the care? Yeah, because that's what you want. You want the care. You want the love. You want anything that may be mended. Any brokenness to be healed.
Yeah.
And so you listen.
Yeah.
A lot. And you continue to listen. And it really depends on the circumstance. It's really tough because sex comes up, and sex does come up, and of course there she is now. And you have the conversations, and you just, you want to really just lock everything up.
I
You
know
really
the solution.
you want to pray it locked up. I don't care what you want to just, lock them in the closet, whatever. But then
It's like, here I go.
Right.
Thinking about the future.
Yeah, you do. You want that. You don't want them to be hurt. You have to constantly have the conversation.
Yeah.
And not be scared to have those conversations.
Yeah.
Not be timid about it.
Yeah.
Understand that, they, if they're not going to have those conversations with you, they're going to have them with somebody, or they're going to look on social media.
Yeah.
Get those answers. Look, he's
So
I'm telling you.
What's running through my mind, first when you said break up, I heard a gun click in my head. Okay, as a
You
father.
did what?
Right, like,
Right.
who hurt my baby?
And then, and then even thinking,
and you don't even have to have a gun. Now, with me, I will beat you with my hand. I mean, that's my.
and then listen, when you said talking about sex, I was like, okay, so when the boyfriend comes over, her godfather's going to be over there, and we're going to just have our guns sitting out.
Yeah.
So you understand
Yeah.
what the possibilities are
Yeah.
if you break my daughter's heart.
Yeah.
And you better stay away from that.
Yeah.
And if it scares you away, perfect. Because you weren't the one.
But
That's what's going through my head.
I know. But one thing that I have found is that I had to make sure that I knew that person, and I did, and that we were able to have conversation.
Yeah.
And even when it was funny, because even when all of their friends thought I was being mean and hard with him. We could just have a conversation.
Yeah.
I want you to come to me when things happen. I want you to have a conversation with me.
Yeah.
And not clam up and run away.
Yeah. Because that shows the character that he's going to take into marriage. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So
that's good.
it's
That's good.
it's still a journey now. I'm telling you, because some things that you want to do and want to say. You're praying all the way through it.
As I am right now.
It is.
Imani is there.
And it's real. I mean, like I said, I wish they would just lock everything up, What do they talk about, chastity belts?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
You want that. At the same time, you want to have the conversations of sex and you talk about the ideal and you talk about the pressures and you make sure that you get as much in as you possibly can. Because if not, somebody else is going to. I remember my son said that he was at school and somebody had been looking at something. And so all of them going to look at it too.
Yeah.
Internet, in library,
Yeah.
You don't want them teaching your children. You don't. you know, and so they have the images in their head.
Yep.
So what are you going to do? You have to go back and just
Yeah.
recreate
Mhm.
and, you know,
Yeah.
reteach all of that.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. As a and then because that's a real talk. Because I think about high school was when I was introduced to those things, and I don't think my mom had the tools to help me through it. And because being a church kid, and it came with condemnation and not understanding that there's this engine in everybody, and it seems heightened in boys. And if you don't know how to guide it, now by the grace of God, I made it to my wedding night with my wife being pure. So, you know, by the good grace of God and, you know, me giving my life to Him at 10, helped me stay consistently in that space. But, and even on that conversation with sex, because it produces a baby, right? One of the things that people always say, right, especially when my wife became pregnant, is your life's about to change, right? Things are about to be different between you and your wife, and they never explained it. And then what I found out is for a good 3 to 4 months, you as a man don't matter. It's all about the baby, and having to have a healthy ego to be able to walk that through. Because, you know, one thing my pastor said to me that stuck, that helped me kind of stay focused, because there were moments where I was ready to chuck up the deuces and go disappear and be like, I'll send you money, right? Just being honest. And he said, you know, that 8 month to 2 months, 3 months postpartum is when most men step out of their marriage. And for me, having that in the back of my head and just locking in on my commitment to God, right? Because that was more important, honestly, than my commitment to my wife and being there for the child, what I promised God when I said I do to her. So speak from it from a woman's perspective, like those first, it's not an intentional forgetting or not thinking of, but it's just the makeup of, you know, it's a baby. So, like, you know, just kind of speak to, especially mine, you're fresh off of.
Yeah, that fourth trimester is, you know, it's a doozy. A lot of times people, they don't speak on it, you know, they speak up until delivery, and, you know, they talk about all the cuteness of having a newborn at home. And especially when you're a first-time mom, there's a lot of transitions from going from just you and your spouse to now being responsible for a child, and then realizing, even with some women, that they go through birth trauma.
Right.
Hormones are still, you know, doing what they're doing. They're still dealing with pressure, depending on, you know, whether they're trying to breastfeed or not. And so it's a lot on new moms, and, you know, I don't think that it's intentional most of the time to push the husband to the side, but I think there's so much going on simultaneously, and it's like, okay, this child cannot fend for itself, and you kind of can. So can you just, you know, take care of yourself right now and let me help the one that's helpless? And I think sometimes you do have to kind of step back and see, right? And even learn from other people's mistakes, because that was something that we constantly heard. Was like, oh, you know, the baby came in the picture and she forgot about me. So for me, it was still checking in with my husband, because one of the things that I found out was that men can also go through postpartum depression. And I was like, really? But they're thinking about all the things that they're losing as well, and they're dealing with all the emotions and pressures, and now the new identity of being a father. So for me, it was about checking in on my husband, you know, periodically, seeing how he's feeling, and making sure he feels supported in his role. And it was really interesting, because when my son was first born, there was so much going on that my husband actually was the one who did a lot of the first with him. So, you know, he did the skin to skin, and he kind of set a lot of the routines as far as like the newborn routines. And a lot of times it's the mom that's doing that. But at the same time, I was so grateful that it was him and us being able to learn together and help, you know, raise our son. And one of the things I remember, think it was Aisha Curry saying that, before I became a mom, I was a wife. And so she prioritizes her time with her husband, making sure that that relationship is straight. And a lot of times, we're focusing in on taking care of the kids, making sure that the kids' needs are met and not, making sure that the spouse's needs are met. So we've been just trying to be more intentional about date nights. And even when we can't step out of the house, it's all right, when he goes down for bed at night, being intentional about, sitting, watching a movie, cooking dinner, having conversation, checking in with each other, and just continuing to foster that intimacy. So I don't think it's intentional at all.
That's good.
But it's definitely about keeping those lines of communication open, because I think there's a lot of assumptions that are made during that fourth trimester, for sure.
Nice.
You're so good. I think about what we've gone through. First, I was a little different with that fourth trimester. I was really aroused. That's and when you're huge and you can't hardly breathe. And then you have that, what do they call it, the shadow?
Mm.
I had all of that. I know my husband was like, oh, gosh, what am I going to do? This is not the woman that I met. Doesn't look like it. But she still wants to be with me, and that's very interesting. It is. I remember him.
Sure it was for you.
I remember him saying it, and my hair was long when we met him, and so I gained 77 pounds. I cut my hair off.
Mm.
I had the shadow.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know what the shadow is. Do you know what the shadow is? You get darker.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And my feet were so wide I had to put on sandals.
Mm.
And I was like, hey, come on, husband, And so that's different.
Mm-hmm.
That is very different.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that after I had, especially my son, we were just tired.
Yeah.
We were just tired. And for us, I think that we had to hit the ground running. He needed all the therapies. And then, we were going to wait about 4 years to have my daughter. She came 2 years, and we were like, oh, okay. So we just kept running. And so, the date nights and those types of things, all those things that we wanted to do, we didn't do them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And, when we try to do a date night, 10 minutes and we're asleep,
Mm-hmm.
snoring,
Mm-hmm.
A date night could have been Walmart,
Mm-hmm.
I remember some friends, they said, bring them over and we'll, and all we did was talk about them and go to Walmart, So, and I applaud you for making sure that you do that, because so many do not, and you can really truly get off track. And I know that we have at times, and it really truly, the intimacy really truly didn't come back until after, when they went to college. That's a long time.
Yeah.
That's a long time. It wasn't like, I was keeping anything from him.
Yeah.
But consistency in it.
Yeah.
And so you can kind of forget or forego all of those things that lead up to the intimacy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because the intimacy doesn't start in the bedroom. You know,
Right.
everybody know that.
Right.
Yep.
You know, so you have to, you know, whatever it is, if it's a caress, if it's a call, if it's a text, whatever it is, you know, making sure just a affirmation in front of somebody, you know, making sure that that's done, because you know now we're, you know, I think that we're more intimate, even now because we know each other, and you know, we are intentionally looking and moving towards that intimacy.
Yeah.
So, you know, that you know, for whoever needs to hear that, definitely work. You know, even if it's a small thing, constantly working toward, and it doesn't have to be all churchy. You know, I love church.
Yeah.
But I find that people try to make it so, you know.
So it's no worship music at that.
Yeah, don't put on
No.
worship music. Don't put on worship music. And I have to say, I've been that one. I've been the one. That's so sad. I was just like, really?
We're about to honor God. Oh, man.
Yeah, but, you know, but be you, and because it's what, you know, they married you for you, you know. So in being you, you know, you can understand them more. They can understand you, and you can build on that.
So, bro, you got any thoughts, any questions, anything you would like to, as we wrap this portion up?
I'm just was taking it all in, and I would just enjoy hearing each and every one of you's amazing, like, points of view and where you come from as a wife and as a mother, and yeah, y'all are amazing. Y'all are amazing. Definitely keep doing what y'all are doing, because yeah, I'm sure it's amazing, and I know it's, you know, setting something off in somebody out there for sure, you know, as far as the things that both you, Imani, and Ms. Rhonda have shared today, because man, I almost cried today.
So as we wrap up, ladies, just share just one thing about being either a mother or wife that you want to kind of encourage someone that's listening to do, or to practice, or even change. Just one quick, brief thing.
Well, I know one thing that I would encourage married couples to do is, if they need help, if you're in a marriage where you need help, ask for help.
Oh, that's good.
You know, I'm seeing so much, and if things aren't going right, and you're still, don't let them linger.
Yeah.
You know, because you don't have to get divorces. You really don't.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, and just get the help. Get the help that you need. You
That's
know.
good.
You know, God is good.
Yes.
Very.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, my advice would be, don't allow social media to be your standard as far as what your marriage should be, or who your children should be, who you should be as a parent. You go before the Lord, see what God wants for you as far as your marriage is concerned, as far as you raising your children, and just to really keep service at the forefront. I really did. You know, I lifted that up as far as the wife portion, but as well as being a mother, it is an honor to serve my son, and just to kind of keep that in mind. But I think that's about all for me.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Awesome.
Yo, I think, you know, we cried, we laughed, we got some understanding, we went deep. But I believe it's just been a fruitful conversation. So again, ladies, we really, really appreciate the time spent and you know, with us, and pouring out your heart and sharing things, you know, that are in the deepest parts of your heart. It's not easy for people to come and have conversations and be candid and purposeful. But we thank God for you being authentically you and understanding what your purpose is in the earth. Because that's what our brand is all about, is being authentically you while being in your purpose. So guys, ladies, husbands, wives, men, women, if you've enjoyed this, again, share this. I think something's really, there's so many nuggets that came through this that I'll have to listen to it over and over again. It was just that much impactful. So again, we appreciate it. So bro, if there's any last thoughts, you good?
I think I'm good. I'm good. I'm just looking for somebody who got some of this type of energy.
I got somebody.
I won't take it.
Right. As they say at church, all hearts and minds are clear.
Right.
Thank you for you guys sharing this time with us. And so until next time, it's your boy Zay.
Hey, and it's your boy Rashad.
And this is the Raw on Purpose podcast.
Keep tapping in.
Tapping, tapping. Tap into your purpose. Tapping, tapping. Check it out. They act as if we see, no hear, no speak, no evil. They act as if we see, no hear, no speak, no evil. We tapping into purpose.